7 bone-chilling lake house secrets from deep Appalachia that haunt you forever. Deep in the heart of Appalachia, where the sun dips low behind the ancient oaks, lies a lake house that has seen more than its share of darkness. Whispers curl through the air like tendrils of fog, revealing the ghastly secrets buried within those walls. Shadows flit past the windows, and even the locals avoid its shores, wary of the ghostly legends that cling to it like the brambles that guard the path. You could almost hear the regretful sighs of those lost to its depths. Take the first secret, the tale of the spectral fisherman. They say every full moon, a man with hollow eyes and dripping clothes emerges from the lake, searching for his lost rod and reel. His mournful cries echo in the stillness, chilling the bones of anyone brave enough to listen. Fishermen claim that if you catch a glimpse of him, you're destined to meet a haunting end, yet some still venture out, drawn by a mix of fear and curiosity. Then there's the legend of the family that vanished in the blink of an eye. One night, they were having a picnic on the shore, laughter ringing out like a sweet melody. But when morning light broke, only their blanket remained, untouched and still. The townsfolk murmur that you can still hear their laughter on warm summer nights, intertwined with the soft lapping of the waves, a cruel reminder of their tragic fate. With each passing hour, the tension grows. Best friends have gone missing from the nearby cabins, swallowed whole by the woods. No trace is left behind, just empty beer cans and memories of laughter that turn sour. When the search parties comb the area with desperate faces, they return more shaken than before. Breaths are held, hearts race. What lives in those woods? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But just as things seem most dire, a flicker of hope shines through. An old man, the last of the original owners, appears with a shaky voice and trembling hands. He claims he holds the key to breaking the lake's curse, mentioning an ancient ritual at twilight that could bring peace to restless souls. But will anyone dare to heed his warning, or are they destined to become part of the home's horrifying lore? The tension thickens, and the night looms large, waiting to unveil secrets too terrible to tell. The air grew still as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced around the lake house. The old man's eyes sparkled with urgency, a fire igniting behind their veil of age. He leaned closer to the gathered crowd of curious campers, the weight of decades resting on his shoulders. Listen. The ritual must be performed before dawn. The spirits grow restless, and we stand on the brink of something terrible. His voice trembled, sending shivers down spines. A wave of discomfort swept over the onlookers, their instincts screaming to run. How do you know this? A skeptical voice piped up from the back. A young guy with a smug, dismissive grin. It sounds like an old wives' tale to me. The old man scowled, fists tightening. I know, young man, because I've seen the horrors that lurk after dark. I've buried too many friends, too many souls lost to this cursed place. His gaze searched the crowd, and for a moment, silence wrapped around them, the weight of unspoken fears palpable. Those who ignored the warnings he trailed off, letting the thought hang in the air, it was a warning more powerful than any words. Another chilling gust brushed past, sending goosebumps racing across the skin of everyone present. Murmurs echoed between the group, uncertainty and unease blending with the fading light. We can't just let those souls suffer, a brave woman declared, stepping forward. What do we need to do? Gather some items from the lake's edge, white stones, feathers, and something from each of your hearts, the old man instructed. Only then can we honor their memory and bring peace. The group stood stunned, glancing at one another. Their previous bravado from earlier in the night had all but vanished. What was camping without a little thrill? Now, it felt all too serious. Fine, the young man relented, crossing his arms defiantly. Let's go find this junk. Ghosts won't scare me. As he strode toward the lake, his bravado suffered a crack. The wave lapping at the bank was unusually loud, almost angry. The others hesitated, a collective dread settling heavily in the pit of their stomachs. Conversation quieted, replaced by the rustle of branches swaying against the whispering wind. The darkness deepened, consuming the edges of their campfire glow. A sudden scream pierced the cool night air, a piercing wail, raw and desperate. They all froze, feet rooted in place. The sound came from the forest, deep and echoing, yet hauntingly familiar. Is that someone? Another member gasped, eyes wide with fear. No one is supposed to be out there. The old man shook his head, panic creeping back into his voice. We're not alone. Heart racing, they all turned in the direction of the scream. The forest was a wall of shadows, the trees twisting like fingers reaching out for them. Fear gripped each one of them. The very things they had laughed about just hours ago now loomed like realities, monstrous and alive. We need to stay together. The brave woman called out, her voice trembling yet firm. But just as they began to huddle closer, the young man burst back from the lake, eyes wide and terror-stricken. I saw him. The fisherman. He screamed, and in that moment, the blood drained from their faces. What had they unleashed? What dark pact lay waiting to snatch them away? The old man's warnings collided with their fraying sanity, and as the night deepened to pitch blackness, a single thought pierced through the fog of fear. Was the ritual a way to save them, or a way to seal their doom? But as the forest sang with the echoes of lost laughter and despair, one thing was certain, the true haunting had only just begun. And perhaps, just perhaps, the lake held the answers they were desperately seeking. But would they be brave enough to dive into its depths? Panic rippled through the campers as the young man's words sank in. The fisherman? What do you mean? Someone shouted, their voice trembling, barely holding on to control. He was there. I swear. He was right by the water. The young man's breath came in short gasps, his face pale. He was covered in shadows. Old and twisted like he didn't belong to this world. A collective gasp filled the group. The brave woman stepped forward, searching his eyes. What did he look like? What was he doing? The young man stumbled back, his shaking hand pointing toward the lake. He was fishing. But there's something wrong about him. Something evil. The stillness deepened, as if the very air they breathed had thickened. The old man peered into the gathering darkness with eyes heavy with lost memories. We must act quickly. Time is slipping away. His voice was a whisper against the encroaching night. Enough of this. I'm not afraid of some ghost story. The skeptic shot back, but as he spoke, uncertainty flickered across his face. Chilled sweat beaded on the woman's brow. We need to get the items. Now. It wasn't just a brave suggestion, it was a lifeline thrown into the rising tide of fear. Reluctantly, the group began to walk toward the lake, the water glistening like an inky mirror under the pale moonlight. Each step felt like wading through treacle. They moved cautiously, the whispers of the forest feeling like 1,000 voices floating on the wind. Look! There's a white stone. The woman called out, breaking the tension as she knelt down to pick it up. But the moment she did, the temperature plummeted, the chill biting into their bones. A low rumble echoed from the dark waters. I don't like this, someone murmured. Shut it. The skeptic hissed, though his voice quaked. As they scoured the lakeshore, they struggled to shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows slithered around them, stretching unnaturally as if alive. Then, from behind the trees, they heard a soft, melancholic hum, drawing them inexplicably closer. What is that? The brave woman asked, unable to mask her fear. It's just the wind, the young man said, but even he didn't sound convinced. Ignoring it was impossible as the sound intensified, morphing into a desperate cry that tugged at their souls. It was a plea wrapped in sorrow. And then, suddenly, it changed. It echoed with a familiar tone the very scream they had heard earlier. "Do you hear that?" the brave woman asked, her voice cracking. "Someone's in trouble. Or it's a trap." The skeptic shot back, panic surging in his eyes. The old man looked gravely between them, his voice steady. "If there's a chance to help, we can't just abandon them. But we need to be cautious." The young man hesitated, his courage faltering. "Maybe we should just go back." "No. We have to finish what we started." The woman's resolve surged, propelling them forward. But as they moved deeper alongside the lake, something caught the corner of her eye, movement just beyond the trees. Dread pooled in her stomach. "Wait, did anyone else see that?" Before she could finish, a figure emerged. An old man, his face shadowed, looming like a specter among the trees. The hair on the back of her neck bristled. "Is that him?" she whispered, fear clawing its way to her throat. The others turned, frozen, blood running cold. "Leave the water," he rasped, voice like gravel against stone. "Leave now while you still can." And as the words echoed, the whispers around them grew louder, a chorus of agony weaving through the branches. Had they come looking for answers, or had they just awakened something far more sinister? The woman's heartbeat thundered in her ears as they watched the figure dissolve back into the shadows, panic igniting their fight-or-flight response. They turned to flee, but the ground shifted beneath their feet, the unseen horrors of the night uncoiling themselves, hunting for what they had unwittingly disturbed. What choice did they have? Time was running out, and the lake bore witness. With darkness pressing down around them like a weight, they stumbled back toward the fire, hearts racing, realizing the ritual was no longer just a hope for peace, it was now their only chance for survival. And as the night grew heavy with shadows, new screams echoed, drowning out their desperate escape, whispering promises of despair. But in the depths of despair, would they uncover the true nature of the fisherman, or would they become the next chapter in his story? The crackling fire was their only source of comfort as they huddled together, faces ghostly against its flickering light. Each camper's breath puffed in anxious clouds, nerves ready to snap. The woman clutched the stone, its surface smooth and cold, like a grave marker in her palm. She had hoped it would bring clarity, but instead, it only deepened the shadows in their hearts. "What do we do now?" The young man's voice trembled, uncertainty flooded his words. "We can't just stay here. We need a plan. Anything." The old man, his brow knitted in thought, finally spoke. "We gather what we need for the ritual. It's our best chance to protect ourselves." His gaze drifted to the dark expanse of the lake. "But we must be careful. We awaken something that does not want to be disturbed." His words sank in like stones in their chests, but what choice did they have? They had crossed a line, and the darkness was now alive. The sound of water lapping against the shore was a taunt, echoing with sinister intent. "All right, then," the brave woman said, asserting authority. "What do we need?" "Salt. Something from the earth and something personal from each of us. We can use that to form a circle. It will offer us some protection." The old man's voice held a mystique, a knowledge born from years of experience. "What about the fishermen?" The skeptic interjected, his voice laced with skepticism. "If all this is true, won't the ritual just anger him further?" Silence hung heavy, questions unanswered. The woman took a deep breath. "We have to try. Whatever's south haunting this place, we can't let it take us. We can't let it win. Okay, let us split up. We can be quicker that way," she urged. "We need to be fast." Reluctantly, they separated, each moving toward the darkened woods that loomed at the edge of the campsite. Shadows flickered at the corner of their eyes, darting just out of sight. The trees creaked and leaned toward them as if judging their every move, the young man felt his heart racing as he searched for anything that could be of value. He stumbled across a gnarled root, its twisted shape clawing at the earth like fingers emerging from a grave. Something caught his eye, a tiny trinket, a broken piece of glass persistently glinting in the shadows. He bent down, fingers trembling, pulling it free. No! A voice screamed in his mind, a frantic echo. He jerked back, an icy wind wrapping around him. Glancing up, he thought he saw the fisherman standing at the edge of the lake, shadows swirling around him like a cloak. Escape! The command rang out inside him, yet he felt pinned, paralyzed by the horror of what lay before him. The fisherman's form shimmered, distorted by the moonlight, a figure born of nightmares. He raised a gnarled hand, pointing right at the young man, eyes glinting with an unnatural hunger. Meanwhile, the brave woman moved deeper into the woods, her instincts guiding her toward a thicket. She knew she was searching for something personal, something that tethered her to reality. As she dug through the damp leaves, she found an old locket, its silver glistening faintly. Memories flooded back her grandmother's smile, whispers of strength and love. This will work, she thought, clutching it tightly, but a sudden chill swept the air, freezing her in place as a low whisper engulfed her. Turn back what? She gasped, the voice wrapping around her like vines, squeezing the breath from her lungs. The campfire flickered low, casting eerie shadows that danced in the night, and every nerve in her being screamed danger. Back at the young man's spot, the air shifted again, bringing with it a soft murmur fluttering through the trees. The chilling familiarity set his nerves on fire. Help, it seemed to plead, sweet as honey but drenched in fear. A crash in the underbrush caused him to jump, and he turned, eyes wide, heart racing. Something was coming, and it wasn't he just from the lake. The group had embraced the darkness, but now it seemed darkness was embracing them back, holding them tight. The pieces of their lives scattered like leaves in the wind, blending with the secrets buried in the lake's depths. Would they escape? Or had they unknowingly sealed their fates, tied to the very shadows that haunted the waters? And just as the branches creaked ominously behind him, laughter flared from the depths of the forest, cackling like splintering glass. The air grew thick with dread, each footfall heavy. The night was alive, and it wasn't done with them yet. What lay ahead was a question shrouded in darkness, a mystery waiting to unfold. The rustle of leaves rippled through the air, a whisper of malice undulating toward the young man as he stood frozen in place. The laughter, sharp and mocking, echoed from the shadows, making his stomach churn. Heart pounding, he turned his head, squinting into the murky darkness, where the sounds twisted and melded with the soft lapping of the lake. The world around him became a stage for nightmares, and he desperately wanted off. With trembling hands, he dropped the glinting shard of glass, its allure fading under the weight of his dread. He backed away slowly, each step sending a ripple of fear shooting through his body. Whatever was lurking out there was watching, waiting. Please, let me not be alone, he murmured, the words escaping his lips like a prayer. He needed the others, they were safety, light in this engulfing darkness. At the same moment, the brave woman tightened her grip on the locket. No, she whispered, fighting against the voices that slithered through her mind, climbing over her thoughts like invasive vines. I have to keep moving. She forced herself to inch deeper into the wilderness, grasping the locket like a talisman against the approaching storm. Suddenly, the thicket behind her erupted with a bone-snapping crack, as if a massive beast had emerged from its slumber. She spun around, eyes wide, a scream lodged in her throat. Among the thorns and shadows, she saw a pair of glowing eyes watching her. They were wild, hungry, consumed by a dark hunger that made her blood run cold. Damn it! She cursed under her breath, adrenaline surging as she sprinted back toward the direction of the camp. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet something invisible pulled at her heels, a force urging her into the depths of the woods instead of away. Meanwhile, the skeptic and the old man were feeling the creeping fingers of dread as they searched for salt and earth. The old man felt the air grow thicker, heavy with unspoken fears. We shouldn't be out here, we've misjudged the gravity of our situation. He glanced back toward the lake, almost as if expecting the water to rise and swallow them whole. "Don't say that," the skeptic snapped, trying to stifle the anxiety creeping in. "We're fine. We just need to." A sudden chill swept through the trees, silencing them. The whispering wind felt alive, swirling around them and tugging at their clothing. "Was that laughter?" the skeptic asked, panic spilling into his voice. The old man's face hardened. "We need to regroup. Now." They took off, hearts racing as they darted through the dark forest, branches clawing at their skin, the laughter echoing with malicious delight. Every rustle suddenly felt threatening, and the woods didn't just feel like a backdrop anymore. They were an entity, a living, breathing foe that took pleasure in their fear. Closer to the lake, the young man could hear the others calling his name, their voices muffled against the darkness. They made it there alive, he thought, relief washing over him. But the thought crumbled as easily as it came when a shadow loomed before him again, merging with the obsidian shapes of the trees. "Help! Please!" His voice tore through the stillness, a desperate plea swallowed by the night. The chilling laughter erupted once more, a sound that sent shivers down their spines. It wasn't just the fishermen anymore. Whatever had been stirred had grown bolder, angrier, more determined. As each of them scanned their surroundings, they felt the veil between their reality and the unseen world thinning even more, as if the dark held the answers they sought but would require a horrid price. And just as the shadows seemed to coalesce, a piercing scream echoed from the depths of the woods. The earth shook beneath their feet, and an electric tension crackled through the air. What was that? They gasped in unison, fear tightening like a noose around their throats. They were losing time and perhaps their very souls. As they stood on the precipice of chaos, the lake surged in response, the waters roiling as if something beneath it beckoned. Would they find each other in time, or would the screaming shadows claim them forever? Would the laughter become a warning for all, or just another nail in their own coffins? The possibilities twisted in the darkness, concealing truths that hungered to be uncovered. The air crackled with a palpable tension, as if the very fabric of night was tearing apart. Each of them stood gripped by dread, nerves fraying as shadows danced menacingly around them. The young man blinked against the darkness, straining to identify the source of that scream. It hung in the air like a ghostly specter, echoing infinitely. "Please," he breathed, the word hardly a whisper, yet heavy with a weight that stifled hope. Then, without warning, the ground beneath him quivered again, a low rumble that vibrated through his bones. His instincts kicked in, and he darted toward the sound of his friends. He stumbled through the underbrush, heart racing against the onslaught of terror. Meanwhile, the woman, who had dared to venture further into the wilderness, fought against the chilling pull enveloping her. The glowing eyes receded into the thicket, but the fear had burrowed itself deep. "You have to get back. You have to," each thought echoing as she stumbled on. Chasing her own mind, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the lake's icy surface, but it was warped and twisted, like some dark reflection of her inner turmoil. Panic clawed at her throat, yet she forced herself to steady her breath. Focus. Regroup. The word was a lifeline, a mantra for her fragile resolve. The skeptic and the old man pressed on, the laughter now a chilling chorus that surrounded them, each note sharper than the last. "It's a trick. It's all in our heads," the skeptic shouted, though his voice faltered, cracking under the weight of their collective fear. "Then why does it feel so real?" the old man challenged, each word soaked in trepidation. His hand quaked as he fumbled for solace in the salt he had clutched tightly, a feeble attempt to ward off the unseen wrath they felt creeping closer. Then the air shifted, humming with an energy that felt alive, electric. The laughter transformed, now twisted into anguished cries, mingling with the sound of splashing water, as though something large thrashed in the lake. The very darkness felt hostile, alive with malice, their every heartbeat a countdown to a horror they couldn't yet see. The young man could scarcely breathe as he yelled into the dark, "Can anyone hear me?" His voice rang out, swallowed almost immediately by the woods. Suddenly, a branch snapped nearby, too close for comfort. Every muscle tightened, every instinct screamed to flee. He sprang toward the sound, only to find the woman crouching, eyes wide with fear. "Did you hear it?" she gasped, barely managing to breathe through her panic. "Something's in the water." The old man and skeptic soon joined them, stumbling into the clearing, faces ashen. "We need to go," the old man insisted, urgency cracking through the shadows hold on them. Yet as they turned to flee, the earth let out a guttural growl, and the surface of the lake erupted. A massive shadow surged upwards, twisting and writhing, until it finally broke free, revealing a grotesque figure that was more nightmare than man. "Get back!" the young man shouted, as the thing lingered above the surface, its smirk a twisted grin that promised terror. A wicked laugh mingled with the splashes, and the forest seemed to respond, branches reaching out like fingers desperate to ensnare them. In that instant, reality shattered. They were no longer four friends combating the terrors of the night, they were prey, thrust into the center of a sinister game. "Run!" the young man shouted, adrenaline surging as terror clung to their heels. But as they turned, the laughter echoed louder, almost inevitable, like an embrace they couldn't escape. Then abruptly, everything fell silent. Even the waves paused as if holding its breath, a stillness laced with dread. What had moments before been chaos transformed into an eerie calm, the shadows pressing in closer, whispering secrets lost to time. "What have we awakened?" the woman murmured, trembling. Their breaths hung in the chilling air, awareness dawning, the answer whatever darkness they had unearthed loomed closer, edging toward them as they stood there, frozen. Darkness thickened around them, almost suffocating. Each heartbeat thudded like a ticking clock, the night offering no respite, only more questions and hinting towards a conclusion that would deliver unimaginable horrors. What unspeakable truth awaited in the depths? Would they find a way to escape the grasp of the darkness, or was this the beginning of the end? The stillness was deceptive, a tightrope suspended over madness. The air vibrated strangely, as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for the inevitable release. The grotesque figure lingered above the lake, its dark form glistening under the dim moonlight, the churning water reflecting its monstrous traits. "What do we do?" the woman whispered, frozen in terror. Her voice trembled like the flicker of a dying candle, the young man's instincts kicked into overdrive. "We don't stay here." He grabbed her wrist, dragging her backwards. The skeptic was wide-eyed, scanning the trees. "It's watching us. Why isn't it coming for us?" "It's playing with us," the old man said, his voice barely more than a rasp. "We need to move. Now." There was a wild look in his eyes, a mix of desperation and impending doom. They turned, urgency propelling them like a tide against the waves of fear pulling them back. The darkness felt alive, pulsating around them, tendrils reaching out as if they had a will of their own. Suddenly, the laughter returned, soft at first but swelling into a raucous chorus that sent chills cascading down their spines. Their feet pounded against the forest floor, branches slashed at their skin like claws, but they pressed on, fueled by primal instinct. They had to escape. As they ran deeper into the woods, the night seemed to shift. The trees closed in, branches towering high like jagged teeth that threatened to snap shut, isolating them further from any hope of safety. Frantic breaths echoed in their ears, each heartbeat growing fainter, almost drowned out by the cacophony of maniacal laughter in the distance. "Stop! Over here!" The old man pointed toward a decrepit cabin that loomed in the shadows, its windows darkened holes in a grim face. "Is that safe?" the skeptic gasped, glancing back, vision still blurry with adrenaline. "Less safe than out here. We need to hide." They dashed toward the cabin, hearts pounding louder with every step. The door creaked open as they pushed through, shoving it shut just before they heard the earth-shaking growl once more, this time closer than before. Inside, the scent of damp wood and decay filled their lungs, a sickening reminder of the decay lurking just beyond the walls. They huddled together in the small, dim room, listening intently. The laughter outside persisted, echoing eerily, merging with the rattling wind. "What is it?" the woman said, her voice trembling. "What does it want?" "I think it wants us to suffer," the young man replied, realization dawning, every word like lead pressing on their chests. They had unwittingly become part of something grotesque and ancient. Suddenly, the floor creaked under a heavy weight. They all froze, eyes darting to the source of the sound. A shadow moved in the faint light, pooling in the corners of the room. The old man drew closer to the corner, whispering ancient words of protection under his breath, but the air thickened with so much tension, it felt like it might snap. Then came a soft rasp, an almost playful sound as if fingers were dragging across the wooden walls. No. Don't. The woman cried out, stepping back, only to trip over a broken floorboard. Chaos erupted. The young man lunged forward, searching for anything to defend themselves. An old lamp stood nearby, its glass stained and cracked, but it felt like a weapon in his grip. Hold on tight. He shouted, preparing to confront whatever was coming. But just then, the raucous laughter morphed into a whisper, chilling and intimate, filling the cabin with sinister intent. You can't hide from the truth. The walls seemed to shudder as if the house itself was breathing, drawing them closer, drawing out secrets from the depths of the lake. The shadows circled, hungry, waiting to expose their greatest fears. What does it mean? The skeptic choked, suddenly realizing how deep they'd sunk into this nightmare. As the whispers intensified, a figure began to form in the corner, a dark silhouette merging with the cabin's detritus, a face emerging from the darkness, smiling cruelly, fear clawed at their chests, hearts against the cadence of the unknown. It was only the beginning of their descent into horror. What had they awakened by the lake, and what secrets lay buried beneath its surface? Was the cabin truly their sanctuary, or had they walked into a trap they couldn't escape? The figure in the corner continued to materialize, its features sharpening amidst the shadows. The chilling smile widened, revealing teeth that glinted in the faint light like shards of glass. Every heartbeat felt heavier, echoing like a drum in a night where no sound should exist. What do we do? The woman whimpered, pressing herself against the wall, feeling the rough wood dig into her back, anchoring her in place. The old man, growing frantic, dropped his whispered incantations and pulled out a rusted pocket knife from his jacket. It's coming for us. He shouted, voice trembling. We need to find a way out. The young man gripped the lamp tighter. We can't just run out there. We have no idea what's waiting for us. The laughter outside crescendoed, almost mocking. It danced around them, winding through the cabin like a serpent, tight and suffocating. You think you can hide from the truth? The voice crooned, echoing from every corner, reverberating off the walls. His instincts screamed at him to act. Look! He yelled, pointing toward a small window partially boarded up by rotting planks. If we can break through there, we can escape. Are you crazy? The skeptic exclaimed, eyes darting nervously. You're not thinking of going back out there, are you? But the man's resolve was hardening. We have no choice. It's going to get inside. The old man's face twisted with confusion and fear. What if we stay? What if we then were at its mercy? The young man cut him off. He swiped the lamp, raising it high as if it were a torch against the encroaching darkness. He stepped forward, staring down the spectral figure. Get ready. They approached the window, the atmosphere thickening, the whispers growing more desperate. Look inward, face what you've buried, allow the truth to set you free. The voice hissed that a shadow flickered past the gleam of the smile, only to be replaced by a figure far more familiar. It resembled the young man's sister, her face warped in anguish, eyes filled with silent screams. She hadn't survived that fateful night at the lake. Tell them, she mouthed, her outstretched hand disappearing as quickly as it had come. Hot terror surged through him, and he cried out, No. You're not real. In that moment of distraction, the old man lunged for the window. He drove his knife into the rotten wood, splintering it. The young man followed, gripping the edge, desperately prying it open, jagged shards falling away. Come on. He urged, glancing back at the woman and skeptic. But as they turned, they found the corner idiotically empty, the figure disappeared like smoke, replaced by the suffocating silence of the cabin. What happened? Where is it? The woman stammered, eyes wide and darting. I don't care. Let us just go. The young man shouted, adrenaline racing through him as he boosted himself through the opening. He landed outside, breathless, ready to run, but the moment he looked back, he froze. The cabin facade seemed to have changed distinctly alive and it pulsated with darkness like beating hearts. The old man hesitated, fear creeping into his eyes. What if it's waiting? He murmured. It doesn't matter. We don't have time. The skeptic urged, shoving him forward. Then let us go. The woman gasped, pulling them both toward the shadows of the trees, their path unmarked, twisted by fear and uncertainty, yet the laughter returned, this time resonating from above. The moonlight flickered out as if smothered by a shroud. In the distance, they could hear a voice, eerily familiar as it echoed off the trees. You can run but the truth will always follow. As thick darkness enveloped them, the trio felt the inescapable pull of the lake behind them. An ancient hunger had been awakened, and its chill was creeping rapidly back toward them. What would be revealed when they finally faced the truth lurking just beneath the surface? Would they confront their horrors, or would they be consumed by the very shadows they tried to flee? They plunged into the woods, hearts pounding in rhythm with whispered fears. The ancient trees loomed above, their twisted branches like skeletal fingers reaching for what was left of the night. Darkness wrapped around them, a shroud clinging to their skin, growing heavier with each breath. Keep moving. The young man urged. He led the way, the lamp still clutched tightly in his hand. The flickering light cast frantic shadows, dances of terror that mimicked their own racing hearts. Each snap of a twig underfoot sent them into startled jumps, as if every sound might herald the return of the figure or something worse. What if it's out there waiting for us? The old man's voice trembled. He struggled to keep pace, wrestling with the weight of his own memories. What if we made it angrier? We can't let fear freeze us. The woman shouted, her breath visible in the chill air. We survived the cabin. We can survive this. But deep down, doubt clawed at her. What if they had only escaped into a greater nightmare? As they navigated deeper into the woods, the laughter faded to a low, haunting echo. Yet silence, far more menacing, took its place. It wrapped around them, suffocating, forcing them to confront the growing anxiety that burdened their minds. Look! The young man whispered, squinting into the darkness. Up ahead, petrified trees formed a twisted circle. At the center, a pool of water glimmered, eerily inviting under the faint glow. It seemed wrong, chillingly beautiful, and somehow familiar. Is that the woman paused, breath hitching? She stepped closer, peering through the branches. No, it can't be. Memories flooded back, family gatherings, laughter, splashes on hot summer days. Reflections of innocence danced over the surface, remnants of a life before tragedy struck. But alongside those memories, something darker loomed, mocking and unforgiving. What is it? The old man asked, eyes wide with horror. It's the lake. She gasped, voice quaking. Where it happened? A wave of realization washed over them. This wasn't just a random spot. They had stumbled into the heart of their shared nightmare. The very place their sister and friend had last been seen, the ground that had drank their hopes and dreams. The young man squinted into the water, suddenly feeling cold fingers wriggle along his spine. Don't look too closely, he warned. We don't know what it wants. But it was too late. Something shimmered beneath the surface, gliding, beckoning. Then came a voice, soft, familiar, yet coated with despair. Help me! They each recoiled, gasping in unison as the figure of his sister emerged, drenched and forlorn, pulling herself from the depths. Her eyes, hollow and vacant, searched for an answer in their horrified faces. Why didn't you save me? No. You're not real. He shouted, waving the lamp as if it could fend off the truth. But it wasn't just an echo of guilt, it hissed with the promise of revelation. Shadows thickened around them, the forest closing in like a predator narrowing its prey. What if the old man's voice trembled? What if we can't escape this? What if we're bound here because of our past? Stop! The skeptic yelled. This isn't happening. We're just imagining it. We've got to get away. But with every desperate thought, the laughter returned, echoing with unbearable sorrow. You can't escape the truth of what you've done. Suddenly, the woman knelt beside the water, entranced. Listen. We have to let it out, it needs to be seen. No. Don't. The young man lunged forward, but it was too late. The pull of the lake was too strong. She reached for the water, memories flooding her mind. Just as her fingertips broke the surface, darkness surged like a wave, submerging her, dragging her down into the depths. No. He screamed, adrenaline crashing through him. As the old man grasped desperately for her, the forest erupted with sorrowful wails. The young man stumbled back, the light flickered violently, illuminating a dozen shadowy faces reflected in the water, blurred details of the past now converging into chaos. What was it that haunted them more? What they left behind, or what awaited beneath? Would the truth turn out to be their salvation, or would facing it seal their fates? Beneath the water's surface, unseen horrors stirred. Would they dare to follow? The air grew thick with tension as the shadows clung tightly around the edge of the lake. Their desperation pulsed like a heartbeat, thrumming in synchronization with the dark waters. The young man's eyes darted between the swirling depths and where his friends had once stood with him. Now, all he heard was silence, an ominous gap where laughter and camaraderie had once thrived. Panic surged through him. We've got to go back. We have to save her. He shouted, his voice ragged with fear. The old man clutched his knife tightly, stare steely yet filled with regret. It's too late for that. We might only release something worse if we don't face what lies ahead. Everything lies ahead. The skeptic shouted back. We can't let our past blind us to the truth we've dragged here with us. Each accusation was like a flame stoking their fear higher, the truth like salt poured on a festering wound. Suddenly, a cold gust swept across the lake, and the surface rippled violently. Help me, echoed from the waters again, rich with sadness, urging them closer, washing over them like poison. The woman's fingers danced just above where the surface bubbled, mesmerized by the familiar ghostly form of her friend, her spirit caught between realms. With a guttural scream, the young man lunged forward. No! He shouted, pulling her away as the woman fell into the murky grip of the lake. But she turned, her eyes glistened with something fierce that overwhelmed her fear. I must face it. This is my fight too. The shadows swirled, whispering promises of release, and the pain in their throats grew thick as bile. The old man's voice trembled, expressing what no one else dared to voice. You cannot judge when you've yet to receive the truth of your actions. The young man's heart ached. But she could drown. We can still save her. The old man stepped forward, the weight of his years whispering wisdom into the night. You're already drowning. Each of us is sinking in our own way. But letting her go is how we rise. Every breath felt like a weight pressing down. The skeptic's grip on reality began to fray. You're not serious. The lake is a trap. His voice was shaky at best, battling the urge to flee. We're playing a game we don't understand. But the woman stepped closer to that edge, her resolve brightened. Every second we waste fighting the truth drags us deeper. I can feel it, the memories are binding us. As the moon broke free from the clouds, illuminating the lake, its dark depths seemed to shimmer with life. The faint outlines of faces twisted in agony emerged, their shapes forming around the lost cries lost to the depths long ago. Resolute, the young man swallowed hard, forcing himself onward. Then we all face it together. We can open this door and set everything free. Our past will not dictate our future. With a united breath, they gripped the old man's hands and formed a tight circle. Together, they leaned over the water, peering into its depths and bracing for the resonance of their truth. They began to murmur the names of those they lost, binding the threads of grief, anger, and regret into the fabric of the night. "Forgive us," they cried, voices strong in broken harmony. "We honor you, and we seek peace." The water churned violently beneath them, and the earth roared in response. Shadows screamed, voices rising against the crescendo of sincerity. Faces glimpsed through the murk gaped, expansive in disbelief. The woman steadied herself, holding her breath as she felt the weight of her friend's turmoil gathering below. The circle tightened, their hearts beating as one, and from the depths rose a figure, cascading up like a wave of regrets intertwined with light, a beautiful yet haunting silhouette of the friend they longed to save. "You've come for me." Her voice rang tender, echoing amongst their fears. But the lake stretched wide, as ancient as the mountains, its dark embrace unyielding. "No." A terrifying voice dripped from the shadows. "They don't deserve your kindness." A final glance allowed the young man to see his sister's face once more, her eyes pleading before. The shadows swallowed her again, fear and darkness battling within. "You're here with us," he shouted, willing the truth to rise. "I'll be free," she whispered, drifting into the light. The grasp of shadows tightened all at once, the sound of laughter turned into wails, echoing around them in waves of despair. The air vibrated with energy, both electric and deadly. "Now!" the old man screamed, gathering strength. "Unite your voices and cast the darkness back." And so they did, calling upon every ounce of fear, every laugh shared and every moment of love they held dear. Truth surged through them, overpowering the shadows threatening to entrap them. Light burst from above, cascading around them as the waves of anguish fluttered. Their hearts aligned with grief transformed into hope, growing like roots digging deep into the earth. The water roared, dragging the darkness back, swallowing the laughter whole, and the shadows began to dissolve completely. In an instant, the lake whispered back to silence. The last remnants of darkness receded, and in its wake, the moon illuminated the water, revealing glistening stones beneath the surface. Breathless, twisted emotions began to settle, and clarity returned to their hearts. They had shared their truth and faced their fears together. The presence that haunted them slipped back into the hush of the lake, defeated yet irrevocably linked to their lives. As the first light of dawn broke over Appalachia, the four stood together, no longer caged by sorrows and secrets but free from the grasp of what once haunted them. The lake shimmered, peaceful as the sun rose, awakening new hopes. They exchanged knowing glances, breaths mingling in the crisp morning air. "We survived," the woman sighed, hope flickering like the first rays around their shadows, heavy with relief. "Together," the old man affirmed, his heart lightening. They had faced their darkness and emerged with the very truth that would guide them forth. They turned away from the lake with every bit resolved to carry on. As they faded into the light of day, they knew they now held the keys to break others from the grips of the shadows that would follow. And with that, the lake returned to stillness, holding its secrets as a remembrance, a guardian of their past, forever tied by the threads of shared truths, struggles, and the bond of fragile hope. Now is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe to the channel immediately, so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let others join this incredible community. Flood the comments section with your reactions and your theories about the ending. We want to hear everything from you. And pretty please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand how vital your participation is to keep the stories flowing. Thank you for being here.